It is a first down. Pirates.
You can paint this one purple. What an incredible win by the ECU Pirates.
Welcome into Blackbeard's Alley, a Pirate football podcast. It is game week with the Pirates. A senior day matchup with the Memphis Tigers, 4 o'clock kickoff on ESPNU. The Tigers 8-2, the Pirates 6-3, and of course, just that one loss in the American, still vying for a championship berth. Some things have to go the Pirates' way. We shall see, but all ECU can do is control its business. But right now, to talk about that matchup with Memphis and then also the American Conference as a whole, in addition to some other college football topics, I'd like to welcome in Rene Ingoglia. Rene, we appreciate your time.
Bubba, it's good to see you again, buddy.
Good to see you. And as we were discussing off the air, I was hoping you were going to be on the call for this game, and it looked like you were going to, but ESPN, I guess, decided to call a last-minute audible. Tell us where you're going to be, and then also the broadcast crew that's going to be at Dowdy Ficklin.
Yeah, I got actually a really good top 10 matchup in the FCS. It's getting towards the end of the season, obviously, and FCS is the 2014 playoff, and I do the FCS selection show. So I'm heading out to Bozeman, Montana. If you've never been there, it's beautiful. Montana State, ranked third in the nation, plays UC Davis, the Big Sky matchup. They're ranked 10th. I can tell you this, Bubba, for those people listening and watching, Montana State, they're one of those programs out there like Montana, like North Dakota State, where the fan base is incredible. They sell out their stadium. They'll be like 25,000. They tailgate. It's like the only show in town. So it's really good. I did a game there last year, so I'm excited for that. That's the late game, so 10:30 Eastern time on ESPN2. So if you're winding down your college football Saturday, you're getting in bed, throw that one on. It'll be a good game. And then for your crew, I looked, and I shouldn't be wrong. Sometimes I forget, but I'm pretty sure it's Dustin Fox will be the analyst on that. And I've known Dustin a long time. Matt Shoemaker, play-by-play. So you got a good crew for that one. And it's a big game. Listen, big game for Pirate Nation. So I'll be, I'm 2 hours behind that mountain time. So I'll be peeking at that one for sure.
And although you haven't had an ECU game this year, you're, of course, plugged into what's going on with the Pirates to some degree. You were at the American Conference Media Days, as was I, back in mid to late July down in the Queen City in Charlotte. And Blake Harrell, obviously, unbelievable job. Last year, obviously, that's what landed him the job permanently. And now 6-3, 4-1, as I mentioned in the open. 11-4 now across, that season plus.
If you're an ECU fan, you have to be ecstatic because you've made it to November, right? There's 3 weeks left in the season, and they are legitimately in this thing for the American Conference Championship. I mean, they're 4-1. I'm looking at it right here. You got Navy 5-1, North Texas 4-1, USF 4-1, Tulane 4-1, ECU 4-1, and Memphis is 4-2. So if you're looking at this thing, ECU has a better chance than Memphis, right? So if you're a fan, you got to say, okay, we made it to November and we have a chance in conference. So I think Blake Harrell's done an outstanding job. There's a lot of talent there, but I think this game this week against Memphis, this is kind of a defining game for him and the program. Like, this is one at home. You want to take the next step, you got to win this game.
As I was discussing on our Charlotte recap with a great Pirate, Mike McCaleb off the 1991 team, Mike and I were just saying, you take a look at this, the Pirates' 6 wins are coming by an average of 30-plus points. The 5 FBS wins, 26.5 points per game in those victories, as far as the margin of victory. But you had the 7-point loss to NC State, 7-point loss to Tulane, both games of which ECU got off to extremely slow starts in the first half. early to mid second quarter, had negative yardage in each of those. And then the Pirates really shot themselves in the foot against BYU in that 34-13 loss. So the three toughest opponents to date, East Carolina has lost, but the Pirates, areas that were deficient early in the year, such as penalties, and Pirates were committing 10-plus penalties on the regular, and then also struggling in the red zone. Those areas have been tightened up, and that's something that's going to have to continue if ECU is going to be 8-2 Memphis.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a mark of good coaching, right? You have issues, you identify those issues, and then you fix them, right? A lot of programs can't do that. So kudos to Blake Harrell and his coaching staff. But this is one where I had Memphis early in the year, week 2 against Troy. Brandon Lewis, their quarterback. And, it's funny with Memphis because basically it's an entirely new roster, Bubba, right? I mean, everyone's out from last year, but like Ryan Silverfield, just like plug and play, man. They just win, right? They just win. I think, I could be wrong. I should have looked it up. 12th straight year, I think they're going to be going to a bowl game, which is pretty incredible. They just insert players and they go. With that said, it's clearly not one of their most talented rosters that they've had in the last few years and in this run that they've had. It's one where I think the pace and tempo of John David Baker's offense, I think, can give that defense some trouble. And with the speed of the ECU offense, it's one of those things when it's clicking, right? It's nice. It goes. They can score a lot of points. It's hard to defend them. When they get going slow and they have some drops and they have some penalties, that really takes them back. So that's something to watch early on. How quick and efficient is that offense with Caton Hauser, who, from what I've seen thus far, has had a nice season.
He really has. Just 5 interceptions through the first 9 games. So solid number there. ECU +8 in the turnovers, as is Memphis. So that's something up to this point, has been a wash, I guess you could say. Both teams very, very proficient at taking care of the ball and then very good at forcing turnovers. And we'll dive into some of those other, games within the game, so to speak, and angles of this matchup in a moment. But you mentioned Brandon Lewis. He's someone that I guess started his career at Colorado and then had been at Nevada. And 6'3", 210 pounds. He wears number 2, and he's thrown for right at 2,200 yards and run for over 500. And he's accounted for something like 20 touchdowns, including 8 on the ground.
He's been banged up, so that's one issue. So you just listen. Everyone, you get to November, everyone's banged up, especially if you're a running quarterback. But it's quite a difference, right, for Memphis because Seth Hennigan was there for about 8 years, right? It feels like, and through prolific numbers passing, and he was not a run threat. Brendan Lewis is a legitimate run threat. Again, I don't know how healthy he is. Everyone's a little banged up, but again, you get to this part of the season, and they're I know they have 2 conference losses, but they probably feel like, listen, let's win. You never know at the end of the year. You just got to win out. It starts with the next one, and they got to believe they're still in this thing too. So he's going to sell out. There's no doubt about that.
Due to Lewis, like you mentioned, being banged up over the last several weeks, you had that loss to UAB where you had A.J. Hill, a talented true freshman out of Warner Robins, Georgia, 6'4", 215. And I was familiar with him from that, but this is a kid, Rene, that was the number 5 quarterback in America coming out of high school.
Oh, yeah, he's going to be really good. It's just hard when you get thrown in, right? You get that injury and you get thrown in, and that I know that UAB loss is stinging to them. It's one that, even with the young quarterback in there, they had a chance to tie that game, get to overtime, win that game, and they just couldn't do it. And so that one hurt them a lot. But you know what? I give them credit. They've bounced back. But, yeah, that's one thing that Ryan Silverfield has always done a nice job is, like, they get talent there at Memphis, right? It's got a good NIL, a good rev share package. Now, of course, I didn't hear much this week, but last week, right, there was a ton of news saying that he was going to take the Arkansas job. So I don't know Ryan Silverfield, that is. I don't know if that slipped out. I don't know if that's just premature reporting. And so you kind of wonder, does that get in the minds of players? And it's interesting, Bubba. I think when word got out that a coach was leaving or a coach told his players that he was leaving before the season ended, I used to think it affected teams for sure. I don't think it affects them anymore because you know why? Because the players up and leave too. It's not like the players are stuck there, right? In the old days when your coach left, you're like, damn, man, I came here for him. He's gone and I'm stuck here. Now all these players leave too. So I don't really think psychologically, if your coach leaves, it affects your players anymore. So that's not an excuse you can use.
Yeah, that news as far as Ryan Silverfield, was it a matter of, was it on 3 Sports or was it no 3 Sports? I'm sure you've noticed that on X. That's got me a time or two when I was looking at something in a hurry. Like you've probably heard, and there's been rumors of James Franklin to Virginia Tech. And then I glanced at it. I said, this is no 3 Sports.
But then you have legitimate people that put stuff out too that are just kind of like, because they heard something, they heard a rumor, they had a source. I mean, until it's done, it's done. I mean, I know we'll probably get into it before we get off here, but like, what a crazy year with firings and just with what's going on. I mean, it's outrageous. And again, though, we've talked about this, Bubba, for years now. The conference that gets hurt the most is the American. I mean, their coaches always come and get pillaged, man. It's going to happen again. But when it's all said and done, I mean, it would not surprise me if Ryan Silverfield is gone. John Summerall is gone from Tulane. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I honestly think USF might be able to keep Alex Golish because they do have a good money behind the program. You're in Tampa, brand new stadium coming in 27 on campus. They got a lot of really nice things there. So I think a lot of these coaches that are at the higher end group of 6, and it is group of 6 now, and I would put, Memphis, Tulane, USF, ECU at the higher echelon of group of 6, unless it's the perfect job for you, right? Or the money is so ridiculous where you can't say no, which happens. I think a lot of these guys will look to stay where they are because they know what they've built and they're winning. Like, look at, if you're USF, you're sitting there and, they're in the driver's seat for the American, right? Now, if they lose, they're not. But because they're ranked, they lost to Memphis, right? But Memphis has two conference losses. They've beaten, North Texas, Tulane, correct? I think they played Tulane. So I don't think they played Tulane. That's right. It's tough for the American because there's been so many that don't play. But if they win out, they're in control. So if you're someone like Alex Golish, you're thinking to yourself, I have a better chance each year to make it to the college football playoff from the American than I do if I went and took Virginia Tech, let's say. I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe Virginia Tech turns around. Or, in Arkansas, right? It's crazy. So, but I think a lot of coaches are starting to think like that.
In addition to A.J. Hill, who saw the action at quarterback against UAB, you have Arrington Maiden. He saw action against Tulane on Friday night. And I heard comments from their offensive coordinator earlier today. And what he said is what you would expect to hear as far as he has confidence in all 3 of them in the typical coach speak. But what can you tell us about Arrington Maiden?
Yeah, no, he's got a good arm as well. And the one thing, Tim Cramsey, the offensive coordinator, I've known him a while. He's a good offensive coordinator. He likes to have the system where every quarter doesn't have to close anything down for any of the quarterbacks, right? He likes his quarterbacks to be able to run the system totally. And sometimes that's hard because when you had a quarterback like Seth Hennigan, it's very hard to put a backup in that's going to be able to do everything with an experienced quarterback like that. With the way he runs the ball now with his quarterbacks and throws it, that kind of the good mixture there. I think all 3 of them are similar in what they do. And so I say that because I think whatever quarterback ECU may see, I don't think the offense is going to change drastically. I really don't. So you just have to be prepared for all of them to run the pass game. The one thing that, and I'm sure the fans have noticed, that Memphis doesn't have this year, which, when you think of Memphis, they've always had one or two standout wideouts, right? A 70 reception guy, a guy that's just a standout that can stretch the field. They got Cortez Graham this year. He's their leading receiver with 50 receptions, but none, real super standouts. Just some good ones. So, I don't think ECU defensively is looking to take one guy away like you might have done against Memphis in the past.
Yeah, one of the things that was pointed out about this Memphis team, they've made it a habit of having 1,000-yard rushers.
Yeah.
This year they have quality backs, led by Sutton Smith, who has 535 yards, 6 yards per carry. Has reached pay dirt 6 times, but it's very much not a one-man show there in that running back room. Tell us about those guys.
Yeah, three-headed monster. So Sutton Smith, and he's a great story. He's a kid that blew his ACL. He's been hurt. He's been at Memphis his entire career, right, which is shocking today, right, that someone stays somewhere. But you're right, 535 yards, 6 TDs. He's a burner, though. He's a guy that, if he gets to the second level, he's a home run hitter. So you got to make sure you tackle him. Greg DeWozier is kind of that. He'll run the ball between the tackles. He's really good out of the backfield catching the ball. He's got 7 TDs on the year. So you got to be careful for DeWozier. And then Frank Bizant is a guy they picked up. He was at Middle Tennessee, kind of a little more of a pounder, but 7 TDs. He's a hard runner between the tackles. So those are the 3 guys you're going to see sent at you. And make no mistake about it, Tim Cramsey, along with the running game of the quarterback, he wants to run the ball first and foremost. So ECU, you hear defensive coaches say it every week, but it's true. You got to make teams one-dimensional. You need to stop them at the line. You got to win the line of scrimmage. You got to get your run fits. You got to stop the run and force Brendan Lewis or whatever quarterback's in there to say, okay, beat us with your arm. We don't think you can do that, but you got to stop the run first. Easier said than done with Memphis.
Tell us about those skill guys out wide with Cortez Graham and also Jamari Hawkins.
Yeah, so more, not the big wide receiver, the game breaker that you think. A lot of kind of slot guys that play on the outside, opportunistic, good at running after the catch, right? So good route runners. Again, though, I don't think. They got those guys. I bring them a little bit that kind of can take the top off, but really it's those intermediate routes and the running after the catch. So if you're ECU defensively, you got to make sure you come up and tackle well.
Yeah, that is something that, for the most part, the Pirates have done very well this year, is tackle. As I'm sure you've seen, the Pirates have been susceptible, to big plays through the passing or via the passing game, and gave up 275 or 280 yards, and that was against Charlotte, and you had probably 150 or 60 of those yards came on 3 plays.
Yeah.
So that's something that not that Memphis can't do that, but that is encouraging to hear that a lot of their damage is done more, after the catch. But tell us about that offensive line. Something that jumped out to me, Rene, is that, especially, and I know he's been banged up and not as mobile as he typically would be, but it stood out to me that he had been sacked, or Memphis quarterbacks, whoever, have been sacked 24 times.
Yeah, so I think the lines, it lacks a little consistency with what it's been in the past. They've rotated some guys in there. And again, when you had a quarterback like a Seth Hennigan, right, that's experienced as he is, he throws the ball away. The one thing I noticed about Brendan Lewis early in the year, and I haven't studied him late, is when you're a runner like him, you kind of get caught with, okay, do I want to run it or do I want to throw it? And then he gets it in his mind, well, I don't want to be labeled as a running quarterback, right? So what happens is he stays in the pocket a beat longer than normal when he probably should run. And because of that, early on, he was taking more sacks than normal. So not all on the offensive line, because if you're going to hold it an extra beat and not get out of there, not look to throw it away, you're going to take some more sacks. And that was his issue early on. And if his sack total being sacked is still up there, I'm assuming that's something he's still working on, like when to get out of the pocket, when to throw it away instead of taking that sack.
Another aspect of the Memphis offense that really jumped out is their efficiency in the red zone. They've scored on all but one trip. 40 out of 41 are the Tigers, and then 33 of those 40 are touchdowns. So they're scoring touchdowns in the red zone at an 83% clip, which is third in the nation.
It's because it's a diverse offense with their weapons. So again, we talk about you got to account for the running back, the quarterback run game, right? We've talked about that. Talked about 3 different types of backs they're going to put at you, their receivers. And again, we haven't even talked about Memphis always uses their tight ends, right? So you got to be ready for everything in the red zone. And they're very efficient. They always have been. And that's efficiency in the red zone. And you already talked about it, turnover ratio. Those are, if you're going to look at a couple stats, those are some big ones right there. So
shifting over and taking a look at the Memphis defense, Jordan Hankins, the defensive coordinator, Coach Harrell said that he definitely has some familiarity with him and really likes the way he coaches the game and coordinates the defense. But watch Coach Hankins and his weekly press conference. And he expressed some concern over his unit's slow starts. And you look at their numbers, they're giving up just 21 points per game, which is excellent in this era of college football. But with that being said, that has been in spite of some slow starts. So that's something to keep an eye on because East Carolina's offense has been known to start slow against quality competition, although they have been starting extremely fast in the last 3 or 4 games.
I will tell you this, Jordan Hankins, the defensive coordinator, extremely aggressive. He will send blitz packages like crazy. He'll simulate blitz, try to confuse Caton Hauser. I believe, I don't have my charts in front of me, but there was only one returning defensive starter of the 11. I mean, it's an entire new unit. Got a lot of guys out of the portal. Memphis did a good job out of the portal. Very athletic in the back end, and their outside linebackers, their rush defensive end. So they are going to put pressure on ECU and Caton Hauser if they can. If the offense is humming like we talked about to start this podcast, and they get that tempo going, right? And that tempo only works if you're positive on first down. You're completing passes. You're running in the line of scrimmage. That's when you keep a defense like Memphis and Jordan Hankins on their heels when you're efficient on offense with tempo. If you're dropping balls, if you're getting some penalties, if you're getting held to 2-yard runs, defense is right there. There's no stress on them. They have to stress this defense. If they do that, if ECU does it, I think they can score some points.
One of the defensive leaders for the Tigers, Sam Brumfield.
Yep.
And so he had, I think, been at Middle Tennessee. And then when he was at Middle Tennessee, he was the second-team All-CUSA guy. And then last year started 7 games for Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech, yep.
Yep, 77 tackles, 13 TFLs, 4.5 sacks, 5'11", 225-pound backer from Pearl, Mississippi. What can you tell us about Sam?
Just a hard-nosed linebacker that you think about, kind of the captain of that defense in the middle, and he anchors it. And the thing that I love is, like, he doesn't try to do what he is, right? He's a linebacker that's going to scrape, that's going to make tackles, sure tackles. They will blitz him, though. I mean, he's going to blitz through the A-gap, and the blitz packages that Hankins will have will be a lot. But they will come off the edge. But he's just like that quintessential middle linebacker that every team wants and needs to lead it. And again, in addition, Memphis did a really nice job in the portal. And again, if you have that NIL rev share money, you can go out and get some good players, and Memphis has the ability to do that. I mean, I know on the back end they got some guys from Florida State because, when Norvell went to Florida State, some Memphis players back and forth. So there's some guys in that back end too that are pretty good.
Yeah, earlier when you were talking about Memphis and their quote NIL package, I was going to ask you if that was pun intended. I didn't want to interrupt you, but
it wasn't a pun, but with FedEx, it fits. So there you go. It's probably subliminal,
But Also, some of the other defensive personnel: redshirt junior, Arizona State transfer, Kamari Wilson, 6'1", 210 pounds. He has 2 interceptions. Um, he had also played 2 years for the Florida Gators. And this is a guy coming out of high school. He was the #1 safety in the United States.
Yeah, and he's one of these guys that he can cover you as well. He's long. He's that prototypical new defensive back, 6'1", 6'2", long arms, can run, will still come downhill and hit you, but he can cover as well. So, yeah, they've done a nice job. Like they have all their bases filled in terms of personnel on both sides of the ball, really. I don't think the offense is dynamic as it has been in the past, but that defense, the fact that they were able to add 10 new players to that defensive starting 11 last year and just kind of not miss a beat. And I know Coach Hankins said some slow starts again. I mean, when you add that many new people, you're going to have some issues here and there. But by and large, you talked about their stats. They haven't played bad at all, and they're an aggressive unit. So we'll see.
A couple other guys that stood out to me: number 7, Drew Watts, a Nevada transfer, kind of, at least from a physical build standpoint, seems to be kind of like Sam Brumfield, but 5'11", 220 pounds, 56 tackles, 7.5 for loss, a couple of sacks, and then also Florida State transfer DeMarco Ward.
Yeah, Ward was the one I was thinking about when I was mentioning the Florida State transfer. Drew Watts will come off the edge too, and you talk, if you look through, and you probably have their numbers, their TFLs are off the charts. They get a lot of TFLs, and that's because he's aggressive. They're gonna get in their run fits. They're gonna do run blitzes. They're gonna blitz. They're really good at, like, you see offenses do those the bubble screens, the outside screens. Their DBs will go. They'll attack, and they'll blow that play up where they'll get a 1 or 2 yard loss. So they'll get a TFL on a bubble screen or a tunnel screen. So they're an aggressive defense. And that's why I mentioned earlier, and I'll say it again, it's imperative for ECU with their tempo and their pace to be first downs actually to watch, Bubba. You can be productive on first down, 6-7 yards or more with that offense. Then you're going, right? Especially if you get a chunk play. Then you're going, you're at the line of scrimmage. That's when you keep that defense on the heels. If you let them win first down, get a TFL, get a tackle for no gain, then the defense has won first down, and then they have an advantage on that set of downs. So first down to me is always a very important down in a game like this to watch.
Yeah, excellent point, because so many people think of third down, and I was going to bring up the third down numbers.
But it's because of first down.
Exactly. Yeah, but unfortunately, unless you have, certain programs, those first down numbers aren't as easily accessible. But third down, East Carolina, you heard Ryan Silverfield in his weekly press conference reference. He said he did a double take. He said that can't be right, because the Pirates are top 10 offensively and defensively on third down, 51% conversion rate, and then also limiting opponents to just 31%.
Yeah, people think, 50%. 50% third down conversion rate is phenomenal. It's great. And again, I talk about first down because I call so many games. So if a team can get 4 yards, I like 4 yards on first down offensively, you've won first down. And then more times than not, even if you're not super successful in those in the next play, you're usually at a third and manageable, right? So if you can get 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, that's where you can get to that 50% mark. When you're not good on first down and you get no gain or 1 yard or 2 yards, more times or not, when you get to third down, you're 3rd and 6 or longer, really hard. So that's why first down is such a crucial down.
Yeah, no doubt. And kind of along those lines, had a comment from one of our viewers here. He says, the ECU defensive line against the Memphis offensive line we were talking about, and you said that, of course, there was blame to go around regarding those 24 sacks. ECU defensively has been very stout against the run, allowing just 106 per game rushing, and then the Pirates have generated 24 sacks, which ranks 18th nationally.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to they have to be stout against the run once again. Stop throwing, force Brendan Lewis to beat you with his arm, and then when he's in passing situations and you get after him, you got to be relentless, because from what I watched on tape with him, he doesn't want to really get labeled as a runner. So he's looking to throw, which I get. I understand that. But because that, I think sometimes he holds the ball longer than he should. And so if you have a relentless pass rush on those passing downs, you're going to get a chance to have some sacks that otherwise you may not get.
As you looked over the stat sheet, then these teams are very, very similar. East Carolina had an edge in the third down numbers. Memphis had an edge in the red zone efficiencies. Taking a look at it from a special teams aspect, I see Kerrigan, the Memphis punter, 43 yards per punt, which is definitely an edge over East Carolina. The Pirates have had, I don't know the numbers, but I know they have had at least 3 or 4 punts that have been 25 yards or less, and a couple that really hurt them against Tulane. And then also, otherwise, East Carolina has been pretty solid on special teams. They had an excellent kicker in Nick Mazzy, transferring in from UNH. And then that's what he's 46, 40, 50 in his last 3 attempts, 11 of 13 overall. And then Spedick, Gianni Spedick from Memphis, 12 of 15. And this really jumped out, 4 for 4 beyond 50 yards with a long of 55. What can you tell us about the Tigers' special teams?
Yeah, well, Spedick's got a rocket for a leg. He can kick it. It's a good steady special teams. I mean, and you touched on it. I mean, in games like this, especially you get into November, you got to win special teams, right? Especially if it's a good game and offense, defense is slugging it out. That third phase, special teams has to step up. And when I say win special teams, it doesn't necessarily mean you got to return a punt or return a kickoff. You got to do the basic stuff well, because how many times you see teams, when you're supposed to fair catch a punt and run up and catch it, do it. Don't let it hit and bounce 18 yards, right? And it's like, what are you doing? You got to catch the ball first. You can't have stupid penalties because it's about field position. You certainly can't shank a 21-yard punt, right? You got to just, no one's saying you got to blast a 60-yarder, but get a 40, 45-yarder out and go down and tackle well. Just be very steady on special teams. You don't have to be great. Just don't do anything bad that's going to really hurt you. And so I think it's 2 special teams where we'll see which one plays better, but I don't, it's not, except for, the distance of the kicker for Memphis. Again, he's 55 plus for sure. Now we'll see, how the weather is and the wind plays into effect, but that is a weapon to have a kicker like that for sure.
We talked about the running back, Sutton Smith. He's very, very potent in the kick return game and also punt returns. 13 punt returns, 9 yards per return. And he's only returned 4 kickoffs, but 1 went 99 to the house.
You got to stay in your lanes. You got to make sure you come down and tackle. And, a lot of teams, the best thing to do is you talked about, don't give them an opportunity. So get it into the end zone, let them start at the 25. But just know that if you don't, he has the ability to go the distance with that speed. So you got to stay in your lanes and you got to come down and play fundamentally sound football.
And you talk about Spedick's strong leg. Of his 68 kickoffs, 47 have been touchbacks. So 70% of them, like you're saying, results in the opposition starting at the 25-yard line.
Oh, in my game, he blasted a couple through the end zone. So yeah, he's got a leg.
But kind of shifting gears from this game, or actually, do you have any final points regarding ECU-Memphis before we talk about some of those other teams in the American?
No, I think we hit it all. Just that this is a big game for Blake Harrell and ECU. It really is. I mean, Memphis has been a staple in the American, still is a staple in the American. And if you can get this win at home, and this is that kind of where, hey, man, if you're ECU, you're like, we're in this thing. We're 4-1 in conference. We need to defend our turf. This is an opportunity to make a splash in the American.
Yeah, no doubt. And elaborating on what you were saying earlier regarding that Memphis program's consistency over the last decade plus, I did look up the numbers under Ryan Silverfield since he took over back in 2020. 8-3, 6-6, 7-6, but the last 3 seasons, 10-3, 11-2, and now 8-2.
Yeah.
So in those 2+ seasons, 29-7, 16-6.
Consistency. That's the word.
Obviously why he's being mentioned for other jobs around the nation. But taking a look at those top teams in the American, those top 5 that have 1 loss. So you have Navy 5-1. Their loss was, of course, 31-17 in North Texas.
Yeah.
You had South Florida. Their loss came to these Memphis Tigers.
Yep.
Tulane, Tulane's loss came on a Thursday night game, at the Thursday or Friday night game against UTSA, where they were just shellacked in the Alamo Dome. It didn't shock me as much that they lost, but I would have never thought they got beat like that. I did expect UTSA to come out playing strong after the way they had been shellacked by North Texas the last time out.
So it's funny. I had UTSA this year, early in the year. They are Jekyll and Hyde from home and away. They play so much better at home this year for whatever reason. I had them against Rice. I mean, it wasn't even a game, but on the road they struggled. But just looking at the conference, so teams I've had in person, I've had North Texas. I mean, Drew Bestamaker, what a story that is, the quarterback for North Texas. I've had USF, I had South Florida, I've had Tulane, and I've had Memphis. To me, Bubba, USF has the most talented roster top to bottom. Okay, I'm not saying that necessarily the best, going to end up being the best team, because the best roster doesn't necessarily correlate to the best team. They have the most talented roster. Byron Brown's incredible, but their defense is really good too. They got dudes everywhere, and really they're in the driver's seat. They play Navy Saturday, so that's a big one for them. And then they have UAB and Rice. So if you're asking if I was a betting man right now, who's gonna run this gauntlet the last 3 weeks and win the American Conference Championship, I would say it's USF. But we'll see. Tulane, I think, is a good team. They're not as good as they've been in the past. Jake Retzloff, their quarterback, he's very talented. I know in that loss, UTSA did not play good, but rebounded. So Tulane is a good team, but I think talent-wise, USF's better. Memphis, talked about them. I don't think it's the Memphis of old, but still a very good team. In North Texas, I think finally, they always could score points. It was their defense. They brought in Skylar Cassidy, very young defensive coordinator from Sam Houston. He's still only like 31 years old, which is crazy. And so their defense has improved immensely. But with that said, though, it's football. It's why they play the games. It's going to be a fun race to the end to see what happens and see who makes it in. One way or the other, though, because we've had a mixture, and you talked about it, of a bunch of teams beating each other and then a bunch of other teams not playing each other. To get the 2 teams in, to get one of the teams in, I'm sure it'll come down to some type of tiebreaker, whether it's head-to-head or common opponent or highest ranked in the CFP. I just believe that, we have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams with 1 loss, 1 team with 2 losses. So that's 6 teams that are essentially still in this thing with 3 games to go. There's a lot going to happen for sure, and probably some tiebreakers in play.
Speaking of a lot happening in the college landscape on the whole, obviously the pressure is greater to win than ever before.
Yeah.
And you hear a lot of these guys that cover it for a living saying that, honestly, and this is a guy that had been in the business and has been out several years now, but Tyler Siskey, I'm not sure if you're familiar with his podcast, but he and Neil McCready, based out of Oxford, Mississippi, they do an excellent job. And he says, these guys are literally, in a lot of cases, it's not much more than a 7-day contract, but it's crazy. Some not as surprising, but obviously you've had Jim Franklin get fired at Penn State, Napier at Florida, Brian Kelly at LSU. What stood out to you about some of these firings, and then where do you think some of these programs are going to go?
What stood out to me was how quick they happened, right? How early in the year they happened, and then once the dominoes started to fall, it's like other teams were like, "All right, we're gonna pull the ripcord as well. We're gonna do it too." With that said, you said it. You asked $1 million question. Like, where do they go for coaches, right? I think first and foremost, they try to pull some good coaches away from other teams. I have no inside knowledge about anything, but just a couple names I would keep an eye on. Obviously, Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. There's no doubt in my mind Florida wants him. Florida wanted him last year. Does he leave to go to Florida? I don't know. His team's most likely. Ole Miss is going to make the playoff. They would have to have an epic failure here not to make the college football playoff as an at-large. But I would keep an eye on Lane Kiffin. Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri is another one I would keep an eye on that are with teams right now. And I'm sure, and I say that because I look at some of the other guys that have been mentioned. They've already renewed their contracts, right? Their ADs have gotten to them and renewed them already. I talked about it earlier. I think John Summerall, Ryan Silverfield, Alex Golish are three names to watch in the American. And then that gives you that chain effect where chain reaction where if they go, then those jobs open, right? So it's going to be interesting. Jimbo Fisher's another one. There's no doubt Jimbo Fisher wants to come back and coach. So we'll see. There's enough jobs out there that, he's going to end up. Pat Fitzgerald's another one. That what happened to him at Northwestern, he's been exonerated and cleared. He's coming back to coach. Where does he end up? I don't know. But it's going to be fascinating to watch. Because like a school like LSU, I don't know, you got to hit a home run, right? I mean, all these schools in their mind, they have to hit home runs, right? We've heard James Franklin, Virginia Tech talk is high. Who knows? I think that would be a good fit. It'd be interesting. But it's going to be wild. And listen, there may still be some more firings reports all said and done. Although I think it'd have to be somewhere that it's just really not repairable because, again, there's so many jobs open, right? So, hey, sit back and watch and enjoy it, I guess. I don't know. It's crazy.
Final thing for you on a national note, Indiana, Texas A&M, and Vandy. What Kurt Cignati, Clark Lee, and Mike Elko are doing at those three institutions has certainly jumped off the page for different reasons.
Yeah, shows you the one thing the portal did, and I've always said this, is it spread talent around the nation. And think about it. For years, when Alabama dominated, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, they were so deep. Their depth, right? They could go 3-4 deep with guys that could start at other places in the country. And then once the transfer portal came and NIL came, guys started saying, well, do I really want to be a backup when I can go start at another program and start at another Power 4 program? Or do I want to be third string when I can go start? And so that's exactly what happened. So the depth, for the most part, has left these big-time programs to the extent that they had it, and that talent's been spread. So now Vanderbilt. And then the other thing that happened, and you know this as well, and because it's happened to ECU and it's happened to all the schools in the American, the group of six, is like all these Power 4 teams have big pockets where they can go get starters from their group of six, right? And then they bring them to their program, and then that's that depth. They have really good depth, but they can get a starter from their group of 5 or group of 6. They got depth, and that's really what's happened. So Vanderbilt's roster is legit. Indiana's roster is legit. And the other thing is, they can coach. These guys can coach. So if you give them good players, they're going to win, and they've done it thus far.
And then how about Alabama? Everything or what unfolded on opening weekend down in Tallahassee, and then you look at them now, and then you look at Florida State. Just goes to show you.
And I've talked to some people with knowledge. Kalen DeBoer is a 180 from Nick Saban. He doesn't coach like Nick Saban at all. Like Nick Saban would chew your ass. Like we've all seen the clips. He gets after you. He coaches you hard. DeBoer is more of like, okay, all right, next play, like move it on. You know what I mean? But they're winning. Right? It's just, and I know Bama fans are probably frustrated because it's funny when you win a lot of championships. If you're not blowing teams out, right, you get frustrated. But at the end of the day, you just want to win, and that's what they're doing. They're just winning. So they're right where they need to be. Texas A&M, I think, it's funny with the CFP. I think if they went by pure metrics, strength of schedule, strength of record, and all that, I think Texas A&M probably would be number one. But they're like, we don't have to really throw these monkey wrenches in right now because it's all going to take care of himself. Because right now, Indiana and Ohio State are on a collision course to play, and Texas A&M and Alabama are on a collision course to play. So it's all going to work itself out. I'm just glad we're at 12. I do think, Bubba, we're going to go to 16. I think eventually we'll get there. I know the holdup is the Big Ten because they want the automatics, and I understand why they want the automatics. I do. I just don't. But the problem is it hurts all the other conferences, and so I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're going to get to 16 because I can't blame it on the SEC anymore for not playing non-conference games because Greg Sankey called their bluff and said we're going to play non-conference games. So I think ultimately we'll get to 16, and I think that's kind of the sweet spot. But I'm excited for this year's ending. It should be great. Listen, it's why, to me, college football is the greatest sport in the country, and I love it, man, and everyone's passionate about it. So it's going to be a great, great ending here.
A final thought that I have, I'm looking at a graphic that I created for Shane Carden, who went into the ECU Hall of Fame last weekend. But Shane Beamer, and Coach Beamer's obviously done a very good job on the whole at South Carolina. This year, a disappointment. And with that Virginia Tech job open, I know in the past he had said that he wanted South Carolina to kind of be a situation for him like Virginia Tech was his dad, but you never know, if home calls, what he may think, or if he has a change of heart. What are your thoughts on that possibility?
Yeah, well, I think because it is so personal to him, he would 100% listen. And here's the thing, and like I talked about Eli Drinkwitz. So it's hard to win college football games in general. It's hard to win college football games on the road, okay? Times it by 10 when you're in the SEC. It's just hard, right? And so those middle of the road, upper echelon middle teams like the Missouris, like the South Carolinas, they're really good programs. But it's really hard week in and week out, especially now that they're going to play 9 SEC games. It's just really hard to break through on a yearly basis and have a chance to get to the SEC championship or get to the college football playoff. You're going to do it, right, on the odd year, but just with that consistency, because each year you have the Georgias, you have the Alabamas, you have the Texas A&Ms, you have the Ole Misses, you have the Texases who's not even having like a great year, but they're still in it. I mean, I know I probably missed someone, but that's 5 schools, 5 programs every single year that are going to be at the top. Then you look what Vanderbilt's doing this year, right? That's 6 teams, right? Right at the top, not just of the conference, of the country. And you're dealing with that every single season and competing against it and recruiting against it and NIL and rev share. It's very daunting for a lot of these coaches. And I say that because I think ultimately coaches will look at, okay, where can I go? That's an equal type job, but I have a better chance of winning a conference championship and making it to the CFP, right? Because ultimately that's what these coaches are judged on. And we've seen how many have gotten fired this year. So I totally understand and agree with coaches looking for that program where it's equal Power 4 program for the most part, but you have that chance to be more successful on a yearly basis. I mean, that's basically what's going on.
Yeah, Clark Lee and then Diego Pavi and the Vanderbilt Commodores and must-see TV. And whether you like them or not, you can't help but, if you're being honest, in my opinion, to admire what they've done there in Nashville. Just remarkable.
He's cocky, and you love it because, like you said, you either love him or you're going to watch him because you love it, or you watch it because he's cocky and you want to see him fail, right? That's the way you draw people in to get attention. So good for him.
But Rene, really appreciate you spending about 45 minutes with us. Tell folks how they can follow you on social media and so forth.
Yeah, I'm on X, just Rene Ingoglia. I'm the only one there. I'm on Instagram. I'm pretty big on Instagram, or not big, but I mean I'm pretty active on Instagram. So those are the two, X and Instagram, and they're both Rene Ingoglia. And I usually try to talk with people. I played at UMass. They're the worst team in the nation right now. So I get a lot of people that at me. So I don't necessarily get back with everyone. It's been a trying year for my alma mater, but I try to talk to people as much as I can on in social.
Yeah, no doubt. But again, really enjoyed it. First visit of the year that we've had, and maybe during bowl season we'll have you back on.
For sure. It was a pleasure, Bubba. See you, buddy. Thank you.
All right. Pirate Nation, that is Rene Ingoglia, ESPN College Football Analyst, and we really appreciate his time. Be sure to follow us on social media at Blackbeard Alley on X, Blackbeard's Alley on Instagram, and of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel and on Spotify. But we'll talk to you soon here on the show, and as always, go Pirates.